Good morning, everybody, and welcome to the Social Housing Roundtable. Welcome to our February kickoff. Can't believe we're already in February. January felt like it was about 6 months, and yet the last 2 weeks of it felt like about 3 days. So I'm delighted to have you all with us today. I know we've got about 50 people in the room already, with more joining all the time. So really looking forward to today's discussion. My name's Matt Baird. To those who I've not worked with, met anything along those lines before, and the founder and co-host of the Social Housing Roundtable. I co-host each of the sessions we do. We ran 54 of them last year, and we're on to do something similar for 2025. And the idea in our community is to bring people together from all walks of the social housing world to share ideas, share best practice, and really think about what we can do to truly kind of improve our services, and I guess more importantly than that, embrace conversations that sometimes we struggle to have in a day-to-day capacity. So delighted that we were able to continue our series, and a huge thank you to Alertical for sponsoring the 2025 series. I know we've got people from Alertical with us today, so a huge welcome to them as well. Day-to-day, I work in recruitment. So along with the sponsorship of the sessions, it's my recruitment arm that keeps this running for free. So if anybody is looking for recruitment support, please do reach out. And that actually ties in quite nicely to Rich Walker, who is our co-host today. I've spoken to Rich a number of years ago around some recruitment ideas and some other things we were chatting about. And when Alertical mentioned that as of today's sponsored session, Richard was going to come forward and share about some of the amazing work they've been doing at PFH Connect, and particularly around leveraging technology to reduce isolation, it was brilliant to reconnect. So I'm going to pass over to Richard to kick off today's session. To those who are new, please let Richard share his presentation. It'll probably be about 15, 20 minutes or so. And then from there, we'll move into more open discussion with everybody in the group. So without further ado, Rich, I'll pass over to you.
Great, thank you, Matt. Hopefully everybody can hear me okay and see the screen. Technology is not going to let me down today in terms of the presentation. We've got a little video to share, but we've not been able to test that just before my whole system crashed. So hopefully the video will work when we get to that part of the presentation. So as Matt said, my name's Richard Walker. I'm the Home Services Director with Pickering and Ferens Homes. Matt and the guys at Alertical have asked me to come along today and just share our journey so far around the concept that we've called PFH Connect. Now, we'll say we're only 6 months into that journey, so we're still quite early days since we launched the project. But hopefully, what you will see today is some of the early results that we're getting from the project. So, has that screen moved on? Yep, great stuff. Okay, so just a little bit about us. So Pickering and Ferens, we are an almshouse charity based in Hull and East Riding. These two gentlemen on the screen, Christopher Pickering and Thomas Ferens, are our founders. They sort of built our first 12 or so almshouses back in the early 1900s. We've still got those homes, and we've expanded significantly since then. We were set up predominantly to provide homes for the retired fishermen of Hull, and that's still what we do. We are a housing association and registered charity, but those bottom bullet points there around our original charitable values, high quality services, delivering social value, promoting health and well-being later in life, and being more than a landlord, and hopefully truly being more than a landlord, doing things a little bit different than what others do, are really rooted in what we do, and are really core to how we deliver our services. So a little bit more about us. So we are, as I said, a small landlord of 1,453 properties. We've got 44 people that work for us that cover 39.22 full-time equivalents. This number changes every day, but we've currently got 1,797 residents that live in our homes over 48 schemes, or schemes of bungalows, sheltered housing schemes. We are an older person's landlord, so predominantly for over 60s. We do have some people in housing need that are slightly younger than 60, but predominantly we cater for the over 60s. And we are a developing landlord as well, so we plan on building between 15 and 30 properties a year. That's our current development program. Hopefully from the slides that you'll see when I sort of get into what PFH Connect is all about and sort of what the drivers for change were, I put the background of some of our lovely, beautiful schemes and bungalows and activities on each one, so you'll see a little bit of our stock as I take you on this little story around what we've done around PFH Connect. So I joined the organisation around 3 years ago, just over 3 years ago, and started undertaking some reviews of our services. And quite quickly, I found there was a number of challenges around our health and wellbeing service, as well as sort of broader implications to the rest of the business. So the first drive for change that for us was about communication channels. So what this slide is trying to demonstrate is that we really struggled to get messages out to our residents and hear back from them in a consistent, cost-effective way. You know, we could send letters to everybody. That's the old traditional way, 100%, but it's quite high cost. Cost us over £2,000 every time we did a letter drop to people. We've got a mini call centre, so you know we've got staff there that we can phone out, we can receive calls back. But again, that can be quite high cost. We've got our residents. We found that about 28% we'd got mobile phone numbers for them, so we could send just over a quarter of our residents text messages. We knew we'd got about 14% with internet access, with email addresses. So again, it's not an easy way of communicating out there. Got lots of face-to-face work that we undertake. We generally see about 50% of our residents on a yearly basis, but again, that's quite high cost, and you can't get to see everybody at the same time. We've got a reasonable social media presence, fairly low cost, but we just didn't know how many of our residents were actually actively engaged with us on social media. Since about 2015, 2016, we were working with Alerticall and had their Housing Proactive, their old green buttons telephone system that you could send messages out. That was fairly low cost, but that only got to about 34% of our residents. So it was quite a challenge for us in terms of how do we communicate effectively with our customers. The second area for us to look at was around wellbeing, a key value for Pickering and Ferens. So we work to the 5 ways of wellbeing. This is part of our health and wellbeing strategy. So we look for ways that we can connect people together, that we can promote activity, and for residents to be active out there, to take notice of their surroundings and what's going on, to keep learning is another part of the 5 ways of wellbeing, and to give, to volunteer, to do things that make you feel better. So that underpins the key element of our health and wellbeing strategy. We were looking at ways that we could build this, think about how do we communicate what is available to residents, what we can do for residents out there. It sort of links in with that previous slide. The third challenge for me was the equity of our offer to residents. So what this slide shows is that we had, in terms of thinking about okay each day, okay today, and making sure that residents felt that that they were supported if they were in need. We had 34% of our residents were on the okay each day system, the old telephone system. That gave a 365-day a year service, which was brilliant. You could send messages through that, and obviously residents could contact us. 38% were on the Housing Proactive Lite system, so they didn't have a phone. Housing Proactive contacted those residents roughly on a monthly basis to talk to those. But then we had 28% of people that had no service whatsoever, albeit part of that 28%, 13%, actually had an OK Today service that was delivered via our Tunstall system. But that was only on weekdays, so it wasn't the 365 day per year service. And stereotypically, these were our more vulnerable customers. These were the customers that were in sheltered housing schemes, and so they were actually getting a lesser service than other residents that were living in bungalows and potentially more able-bodied and less vulnerable. So sort of it always puzzled me, how has this happened? And it's happened over time. You know, my predecessors had built different models. This was a good idea and so forth, but ultimately we created a situation that wasn't equitable for all, and created further of those challenges. The fourth drive for change was TSMs, resident satisfaction, the tenant satisfaction measures. So part of my business case that I put forward was looking at satisfaction with listening to views and acting upon them over time, and satisfaction with keeping residents informed over time. And these sort of were questions that we'd been previously asking on our full resident satisfaction surveys over the past 10 years. And as you can see, both were on a steady decline. Not terrible results, but certainly from where the results that we were getting in 2015, there was a steady decline. We thought we need to do something to resolve this. So the concept of PFH Connect came about, and for me, what this was and is what we've now delivered is a wholly connected community. Every single one of our residents can have a tablet standard offer in their home. It's a digital tablet. I'll show you a picture of that shortly. It's part of our standard offer that they have, allowing them to connect with us and indirectly to the wider community. We have plans that there'll be more direct connections in the future. It gives them OK each day, so that safe and sure service. There are behaviour tracking elements to the OK each day service, which allows us to target interventions if we can see that a resident is perhaps not pressing their button as frequently as they used to, or they're pressing it several times. There might be an underlying factor that we need to look at our aid and adaptation service and some intervention. Provides two-way communications through a variety of mediums with the with residents. It helps us find the silence. You know, that was a key theme coming out of the Ombudsman a couple of years ago. Digital inclusivity. You know, our residents stereotypically a little bit scared of technology. You know, they don't want to do these digital things, and therefore they were excluded from a lot of services. So actually, by providing a custom-built product that was designed specifically for older people to use in a really simple way, we were making our services more digitally inclusive. And then hopefully that expands beyond the PFH Connect service, and it enables our residents to have more confidence in actually going out there and doing things digitally themselves. To provide reminders, pop-up reminders about things that are important to residents, have an SOS save our souls sort of function, a chat option, so the residents can press the button if they're in need of any urgent help. Now those are all in purple around the edge, because they were the things that we wanted to go live with almost immediately once we introduced this project. My PFH Home is the Pickering and Ferens resident portal. And we've just been going through the introduction of a brand new housing management system. And so the plan is that the portal will be live on the PFH Connect tablet, so that all of our residents can access our services directly through the online portal in the near future. And then the circles in yellows are really sort of things that we've got plans for the future around partner connectivity. We have a lot of work that we do with adult social care and our local health service, health partnerships. They're really interested in what we're doing with PFH Connect. They've done some alignment of their data to work out that our residents are some of their high-profile clients, you know, the people that they have to that they have interventions with, and they'd like to work with us about how they can connect better with our residents through this system. Potentially smart home development into the future, looking at damp, mold, environmental sensors, potentially some other things, and maybe video calling and online inspections potentially. So that was the concept. We do a lot of work with our residents at Pickering and Ferens, and we did a resident scrutiny review a couple of years ago, and as part of that, our residents said, really, you need to have something that gets your staff, your colleagues, your contractors to understand more about us. And they came up with this idea of having personas. So whenever we model a project, we model it against the personas of our residents. And this is David, one of our resident personas. 90 years old, married, one-bedroom house, has a long-term disability, and never ever been on the internet, quite scared of it. His wife's in a care home, can't always hear very well. on the phone, so he has to get his granddaughter to make phone calls to report repairs, and he pays his rent by direct debit. So so we thought, how can we apply this product to David? So the first thing we needed to do is turn him into a cartoon character, and then this is where the technology may or may not work for me. So we created a little video to show how the PFH Connect product could work for David. So fingers crossed that the sound and everything's going to work for us here. It again. Please work. If not, oh yeah, something's happening.
Using Powtoon.
Okay, hopefully that worked and you could hear it all and it didn't go too fast for you. So that was a little video that that we created to share with our board, to promote this the concept to the board, to our colleagues in the organisation. So it's gone down quite well in terms of just trying to illustrate this is what it would mean for our residents. So this is just a picture of the technology that we use. So we did explore 2 or 3 different providers as part of this. And there's bits of each that we liked. Not everybody had everything that we wanted, but what we found with the Alertical tablet is that it did most of what we wanted, certainly in terms of us trying to promote independence and not being too sort of viewed as monitoring of our residents' behaviours and activities. It allowed residents to act in a way that kept them independent without invading their privacy too much. And also, I think the ideas, the partnership that we have with Alertical for how we can develop this further to meet our future ambitions is really quite exciting. And you know, we've got some ideas about what we want to do and how we could trial it. So it's designed for older people. You know, there's landlords up and down the country that already use this. I think you know, we're not doing anything anything new with it, but I think what we are doing is really sweating it, really getting the most out of this piece of technology with our residents to benefit everybody. So Katie, who I can see is on the call, Katie and I went out on a road show probably about a year ago in February, wasn't it? To several of our schemes. I think Ben joined us for a couple as well the following day, where we took the tablet out. We invited every single resident from PFH to come and attend. So I said that cost us about £2,000 just to send that letter drop out. We could have done it for free via the tablet if we'd have had it at the time. And we did a demo of the tablet, talked about what it would mean, let residents have a play with it. You know, I remember going into one scheme, there was 4 ladies sat at the front, and I got there first, and I was sort of getting the biscuits out and everything, and they said, "We've come to look at this, Richard, but we're telling you now, it's not for us. We're not interested in any of this digital technology faff. You know, we're not interested." An hour later, they'd had a play with it. When can we sign up to it? We really, really want one, Richard. It was, you know, just seriously, just having that ability to give it a go, hear what it could do for them, really made a difference. We did it. I think we had about 10% of our overall residents turn up at the various workshops overall, and they all got the opportunity to take part in a survey about whether they would support it, whether they think we should roll it out or not. And we got about 90% of the residents that filled in the surveys were in full support of it and in full support of rolling it out. Even if they said that they didn't think that they would use it, they could see the benefit for their neighbours. And we asked them, what do you think that you would use it for? And you know, 84 said that they would be using it to report repairs. And we've got OK each day at 76, and receiving updates about PFH services was 75. So I thought I'd put this on because it's quite interesting when we see how residents have used it later on to demonstrate whether it's worked out as planned or not. So I got it through board, got it through our senior leadership team, and we rolled it out in July last year. So it is literally only 6 months old in terms of going out there in all of our properties. When I say all of our properties, my voice is going. We are targeting, we want to get to about 90%. We're currently at 83%, so we're not quite there. We've had a few people that have rejected it. You know, they are still saying they don't want to do digital, it's not for them. But we're going to be working with those residents to try and persuade them differently. But some still have the old phones, so they've still got ways of accessing us and ways of accessing the service. But overall, 83%, about 1,200 plus of our residents have got the PFH Connect device and in use. We launched it with a series of the teal coloured message in the middle of the screen there is a sample of the types of messages that we've sent. I've got loads of these coming up just to show you the types of messages that we've been sending. But this was their welcome to the PFH Connect service, telling residents what they could use it for. And we send this on a fairly regular basis just to keep people up to date with, oh yeah, I could actually contact PFH in this way, or I could do something different with it. So by the end of December, we did a bit of a review, and in terms of us communicating out, we'd sent 131 messages, sort of different messages to residents. That equated to over 58,000 individual messages landing on screens over a 6-month period. Now, if you think about a pound a letter, a pound a message, that's £58,000 worth of value for money savings in terms of the way that we communicate with residents. Now, obviously, not all of those messages would have been sent previously. We would have not sent them. We'd have put something on Facebook and hoped that residents saw it. But so we wouldn't necessarily have made a saving in that respect. But what we do know is that because we're now sending them, we're beaming them directly into residents' homes, they're getting to see the information that's hopefully of interest to them. We did you can do surveys on the device. So we've done some around how supportive of the system they are, and we've got an 85% satisfaction rate with the actual the PFH Connect service and the tablets today. So I think we'd set a modest target of 60% when we started, so we're already smashing that one. We'll need to review those for the year ahead. So the next few slides are just some examples of the types of planned communications that we've done. So we've aligned this to our marketing team, and we have a sort of a 3-month plan of the types of messages that we're going to send ahead of schedule. So some proactive communications that we send out there. So again, reminders about how people can use PFH Connect, information about walkabouts in the area, so where they can come out and have an influence on their neighbourhood and their estates. Some things about how to eat well and cook on a budget, and the air fryer thing there is because we got a warm homes grant from the local council last year, and we bought some air fryers with that, and we've been doing air fryer lessons for our residents, how to cook on a budget using air fryers. So we've started pushing out recipes, but in line with our health and wellbeing strategies about being active and supporting fall prevention. We put some information on there about how people can access information about preventing falls, just as an example, but there's loads of stuff that we put out. I mentioned that we do surveys on there, so we agreed with our residents a sort of a service standard for how we would do surveys, no more than 2 per month, for example. We didn't want to saturate them with questions. We've done the same really around messages and such. We've told them about the surveys not being anonymous unless we've stated otherwise. And just a couple of examples. So we asked about the installation of the PFH Connect device, 375 responses, so pretty good response rate. I think that was at the time it was about a 30% response rate that we got there. 93% satisfied or very satisfied with the installation process, 84% fairly or very satisfied that they were kept informed of the process. Then we asked a question, we had sent a survey out about quite a dry subject, annual reports, and I thought nobody's going to have any interest in answering questions about the annual reports because who reads it? Well, 279 people sent a reply in around our annual reports, talking about the design and whether they'd be happy having digital versions in the future and so forth. So it's really useful, this sort of information that we're getting back. We post opportunities on there. So again, thinking about leveraging technology for reducing isolation. The telephone friendship service that we work with in partnership with Age UK. We've got some awards coming up where residents can nominate each other for some resident awards, our people's favourite heroes. So we're promoting that. We do quite a lot of volunteering. Again, the give element of wellbeing, so promoting opportunities for volunteering, again, of being directly into a resident's home and giving them the way that they can then access that service of ours. We love to spread positivity. We're a really, really positive organisation. We like to think positive. We like our residents to think positive. We like to share really, really positive stories. So just some of the so we spread positivities through World Kindness Day, International Day of Older Persons, and making our residents ensure that they know that they feel valued, that they have worth, and sort of how we can just all feel better and not be lonely at Christmas. We put on a lot of stuff about reducing isolation. So again, at Christmas, a time when people can be really, really lonely, we do a lot of work, and we're able to promote this directly into our residents' homes through the PFH Connect device.
This episode of the Social Housing Roundtable is sponsored by Alertical. Alertical helps as many people as possible feel safe, connected and informed by combining ingenious technology and award-winning human contact. Alertical's digital engagement solution helps social landlords proactively know their customers and properties by putting a portable touchscreen in every home, offering a daily property check through the optional OK Each Day service, plus repairs reporting, tenant surveys and much more. They also provide Beyond Warden Calls, an easier, simpler and lower cost wireless warden call solution with video door entry, dispersed telecare and smoke alarms. Alertical works with over 60 housing providers across the UK to enhance two-way engagement between customers and landlords. In 2022, Alertical won the Queen's Award for Enterprise and Innovation and in 2023 won Housing Supplier of the Year. I'm delighted to have them as our sponsor of the Social Housing Roundtable throughout 2024.
Promoting health and well-being. So we have a plethora of activities that we put on. Here's just a selection of a few that we put on: Feel Good Thursdays, crafty clubs, exercise to music, all aimed at those 5 ways to well-being. We've got pictures of Tai Chi going on at Christopher Pickering Lodge there in the background, breakfast clubs, all sorts of stuff. And this is information that we can send to everybody, or if it's happening in a certain location, the device allows us to target specific schemes, specific areas. So they're not getting information that's at the other side of the city that they're never going to access. In terms of other useful information that we provide, I've mentioned about damp and mold. So promoting, this is what you need to look for. Tell us if you've got it, and then we can respond. We can respond to it. When the price cap was going up, we informed our residents, take a meter reading today so that your energy providers aren't estimating your readings higher than they need to and overcharging you. We've got a more than a landlord recommended gardener service that we're just about to launch. So we thought, who better to recommend to gardeners than the residents themselves? So we asked our residents, recommend the gardeners to us, and we'll then do the vetting process, and we can promote that out to our to everybody else. Now, so they're all the glossy, nice ones, but the system is brilliant because we can also send urgent messages out, or ones that aren't planned. And so some of the snips there are from the portal around things that we've sent out fairly recently about the automatic doors opening. This is what's sort of going to be happening. We had a national outage of the telecare system, and we thought, oh, crikey, what we're going to do? All of our residents are taking their pendants around, and if they have a fall, they'll be pressing them and they won't be activating. Well, we had this problem 2 years ago, and we ended up sending letters to everybody, literally having staff hand delivering them. Last month, we were able just to send a message out to our residents to tell them, make sure you take your phone with you around because there's this current outage of the telecare system. Grittings schemes happening, scams in neighbourhoods. We've got people pretending to be PFH members of staff. We can tell our residents, don't fall for it. This is what's going on. So again, helping people feel more reassured. And the last one of all of these is a sneak peek of what's coming soon. So this is the February and March plan. In fact, I think the World Cancer Day one might have gone today, because I think that is today. So just some things that are happening. So LGBT History Month, we're promoting inclusivity amongst our residents. Again, activities going out to a garden centre, and we are getting closer to our launch of our online portal, which residents will obviously in the future access through the tablet. So we're sort of getting a build up to that. So in terms of residents using it to send us messages, we've actually had 1,736 messages in the 36 months. 36? Why did I say that? In the 6 months. The 6 months that we've been live. The average age of those users that have been sending us messages is 76. So, it's not your younger, older people. It's our average demographics that are using it. And it's not the same person that sends us all those 1,736 messages. It's actually been over 304 different users that have actively used the system. And what have they used the system for? Well, predominantly repairs. 1,087 repairs have been reported in that period. We've had 277 general inquiries. We've had 100 people telling us that they're going on holiday, which is useful for us to know, obviously, because it enables us to tailor our services and make sure that we're not worried about them if they've not pressed their OK each day button. We had 40 reports of antisocial behaviour. Didn't actually know we had that much antisocial behaviour in our schemes, but clearly our residents are feeling it, so it gives them that access route. And we've had 217 voice messages, because you don't just have to type a message on this system. You can actually leave a voice recording, and that comes straight into our email system and allows us then to respond. And 15 callback requests. So quite well used, I think. I'm quite pleased with these sorts of numbers. In terms of resident feedback, we've had some really nice quotes. I'll let you read these. I won't read them to you. But through the satisfaction survey around the system, 95% of people find it easy to use. 95% loved the OK Each Day service and found that was they were really satisfied with that. 85% were satisfied with the types of messages that they were receiving. So we feel we've got that balance right in terms of the usefulness of the messages and not oversharing. And we've got a net promoter score of 44, which, so when you do the research, that comes in as great, not world class, but great. World class is next year, hopefully. That's the plan. So we've got some really good feedback from residents. In terms of our demand,
You say, Richard, we've got loads of questions coming through. How many slides have you got left, Bear?
4 more slides.
Okay, so, yeah, if you could fly through, that'd be amazing. Because I think there's lots of conversation wanting to be had. That'd be amazing.
Okay.
Cheers.
Yeah, no, as well. This slide shows demonstrates it for itself. So we've had an increase over time of the PFH Connect inquiries, but our actual calls coming into our mini call centre is a gradual decline over that period. So we can't say for certain that it's because of PFH Connect, but there is a correlation going on there. So which is quite interesting. Now for our TSM results. So we collect, well, our external agency collect our TSMs on a monthly basis, so we can track what's going on with these. So if you go back to those original ones that I shared, we were at 79 and 85% for the business case. So for keeping tenants informed, it's quite interesting. You can see that from July, when we installed PFH Connect, the performance has just gone up and up from that original reduction. And generally also to listening and acting upon views, albeit there was a dip in September. But overall, cumulatively for the year to date, we're at 91% and 94% respectively for each of those. So a great improvement on where we were a couple of years ago. In terms of wellbeing activity, we can't say that this is all about PFH Connect, but you can see a gradual increase in attendance at our schemes for the types of wellbeing activity that we put on. So in terms of that, reducing isolation, people being more active, you know, we're going to do some further correlation work in the future to try and sort of map out if there is a key relationship between us promoting something and then higher attendance. But gradually the numbers are going up from some quite high numbers initially already. We're also doing some other work, so it's not just about PFH Connect, but we've got this as a slide of a picture of a notice board, a digital notice board in one of our schemes, just telling residents digitally, this is what's going on, this is how you can, you know, come and have coffee, cake and conversation with Kerry later on that particular day. So it's, again, it's taking stuff to our residents. So finally, next steps and ambitions. It's not all gone smooth sailing. You know, some residents have found it difficult. So we want to do some how-to workshops, target those residents that aren't using the system to achieve a more than a 90% take up in the year to come. Integrate the system with our online portal. One of the future requests that we've got with Alertical is for us to be able to self-serve the messages with links to our website, because that bit's not quite working at the moment. Enhanced equality, diversity, inclusion, customization and tailoring. So lots of new ideas around how we can make it even more accessible in the future. An activity calendar so that we can ping in those particular activities onto their screens so that they can receive pop-up reminders about when things are happening. An integrated welcome service so that whenever a resident joins us, they get their welcome service through the tablet over a period of days as they move into their new home. Enhanced service through video calling, one of the onboarding of partners that I mentioned earlier. And then we're also looking at those environmental sensors and how could this link to the future of the smart home. And you'll be pleased, Matt, that is it. Thank you.
Very, very much. And I think it's fair to say there are plenty of questions coming through. And I think this is why I wanted to make sure we had time. But thank you, Rich, because that was really just a really good and kind of comprehensive deep dive into all of the different facets that go into tenant engagement. And it's not just about, oh, someone that's a report, repair, or check-in. There's so many different areas you were able to touch there, which was absolutely brilliant. I just saw plenty of questions coming through and wanted to make sure we had time. And to those who are new to the roundtable, if you would like to ask questions at any time, please use the raise hand function. I'll bring you in. Natalie, I've just seen you've come off mute. Would you like to ask a question?
No, sorry, Matt.
No, absolutely fine.
The button.
That's okay. Just checking I'm not missing you out at all. So I'll go through some of the points in the chat. But if anyone would like to ask a question, if you go to the React tab at the bottom of your screen, you can then raise hand and we'd love to bring you in. So Sue Healy said, that's fine. We'll come back to showing those something soon. So let's have a quick look. So do you have an ongoing program to maintain the devices at all, Richard? I guess that question's around making sure things are working. How was that observed?
Yeah, so it's part of the contract with Alertical. So they've got a lifespan, but in terms of any that are damaged or sort of break down, there's provision within the contract to cover that off.
Fantastic. Before I go to question 2, Ladi, I'm going to bring you in.
Thanks, Richard, for the presentation. Absolutely fantastic. I left my comment in the chat area already, but just to say to AlterCall, I understand that AlterCall that developed the software, that they're on the platform as well. It's an absolutely brilliant development, and I love the interactiveness, and also the fact that there are opportunities to develop. I liked how Richard, towards the tail end, it was about talking about the development, is the fact that other things can be included later. I will be in contact with to get your details later, because I think it's a brilliant idea, especially for some of our commissioned services where you have vulnerable clients, and sometimes you can't do the it's value for money. It makes a lot of sense to be able to interact in such an effective way, real time as well. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Lado. That's lovely. Before I go to Jim, a question from the chat. I'm going to try and do intermittent so we cover everything off. Richard, the question came in and said, do your tenants have training support when they receive a tablet on how to use it, and who produced the video? Ben from Alertical has said yes. There's a presentation held on site before deployment. We visit every household to give people a demo, show them how to use it. There's a user guide. There's also a button to get a call back. But how did your residents engage, I guess, with that training support whilst it was ongoing?
Yeah, I mean, it's a training support at the time of installation. So that's they started engaging immediately. From those starts. If you look at the graph with the sort of PFH Connect inquiries in July, straight away we started to get those messages. It's not been without its challenges in part. A colleague of mine recently received a phone call from a resident who was struggling to send us a message. So he went out to see this elderly gentleman, and the guy was wanting to tell us that he was going on holiday. That was what he was wanting to do, and he was really struggling to do it on the tablet. And when my colleague got into his home, he found in perfectly written biro on the screen, "I'm going on holiday." And so he'd not quite understood how to use it, but we've then identified him. Okay, let's start. He wanted to use it. The appetite was there, so let's support him. I think the key thing is using it on a regular basis. So that's why we send those regular reminders about using it, because it's there in the corner. It's nice, but then people revert back to their normal ways of phoning up. So actually giving them opportunities to do different things is and reminders to contact us in different ways is key. And I produced the video, if that was part of the question, because we're only small. We don't have a marketing team, so yeah, I did it.
Kudos to you for that one. Well played. I liked it. Jim, I'm going to bring you in, and then I'll go to a point in the chat, and then I'll go to Ted. But Jim, over to you.
Hi, Richard. I use Alertical every day myself. I'm with Taurus Social Housing. They very much work along the same lines with the portal. But what I loved about your idea is the fact that it's inclusion for everybody and not just people who are involved tenants. So that in itself is a brilliant move forward. I just like your ideas and the concept of it and how you're using that tool from, James Butcher, obviously all the work he's done. I'm still using the phone and tapping in. And if I don't ring in, they ring me. But firstly, if they can't get in touch and I don't ring them, then, somebody who I've got as a member of the family or whatever, they contact them. If you can't contact them, then they kick your door in.
Yeah.
But no, they're very, very good and very efficient, and you just let them know. So I can see you using it great. Just really well done on it.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Thank you, Jim. Question which come through from Claire Donnelly. How are devices connected to the internet and who pays for this? Ben has said they come with multi-network SIM cards, don't require any Wi-Fi or internet in place. They give us extra resiliency in case there's any issues with specific network providers. And this is actually eligible to be paid for by housing benefit and universal credit. How big an impact was that when you were deciding on, I guess, which service to use, but also, you know, it's always an investment when you're trying to, you know, bring in a new piece of tech or anything along those lines, Richard. So how big an impact did that have in terms of that connectivity for tenants? Were there many people doing it in similar ways, different ways? How did you find that across the spaces you were looking at?
Yeah, we just gone live with the digital switchover for telecare, and found several what we call sort of like black spots, areas of no signal. So we've got a partially hardwired service for telecare and partially sort of mobile led service, which comes with challenges. We've had challenges this week in relation to that difference. So we were really keen to test the alert kit out to make sure that it did work in all areas, and I've not come across any areas that it hasn't worked in yet. I say touching wood. So making sure that it's, you know, because we almost deem the OKH day element as the fourth emergency service. That's the way we talk about it within our organisation. That, you know, it needs to work. You know, residents need that assurance, and their families need that assurance that if they're not going to press that OK button, somebody's going to come calling or knocking. And you know, we've had to build our processes around that to make sure that that we follow up on it. So it's really, really important that we got full coverage. In terms of the cost effectiveness nature of it, you know, we were already customers of Alerticall through the old phone system, but it was, as I said in the equity slide, it was a piecemeal. It was all over the place. So I think pulling all of this together, doing some great work with the guys from Alerticall on how we could make it a cost-effective service, has been really fundamental, and a great value for money initiative for us.
Thank you very much. Ted, I'm going to bring you in.
Okay, thanks. A couple of questions for you, Richard. I think it's a brilliant scheme. I think all social providers should take this on board. Is it, I mean, what kind of age range have taken up the thing? I mean, or is it open to all ages? And is it purely for people in flats, or is it in individual houses as well?
Yeah, okay, so it's every single one of our residents. So we are predominantly bungalows. That's the most of our stock. So it's all of our bungalows, all of our flats, all of our sheltered housing schemes. It's 100. It's targeted at 100% of our residents, irrespective of what home they live in. And with that, it's any age. So the oldest user that sent us a proactive message has been 94 years old, I think, when I looked on the system. I said the average use is about 76, but we've had, you know, the younger, older people of your sort of your late 50s, early 60s that have also been using it. So we've got a very broad range.
Fantastic. And actually, that tied into some of the questions we were getting from, you know, I mean, Louise Reynolds had asked, what's the cohort of people using it? Colin has said, do you target tenants by area, or is it a blanket offer? I guess how important was that decision making in going to 100%? Because I think there will be providers who, when looking at various levels of engagement, will go, right, well, we will go for our hard to reach customers, a term I loathe in every statement of my being. But, you know, that's where they'll focus, or they'll go straight, well, we'll go to our elderly customers first. How when deciding to go straight to 100% with that, I guess where was it led a little bit by TSMs? Was it led by the digital switchover? I guess what was the decision making behind that?
Yeah, I mean, I would say the first thing that made me think we've got to find a solution was the communication issue. So on that, the communication driver, where I couldn't easily communicate with our residents, but I sort of knew that we could send a message via an Alerticall phone to 36% of residents. I thought, actually, if I could expand that to 100%, wouldn't that be just brilliant? And then through talking with James and Ben and Katie at Alerticall, around how we could make this happen. And like I said, it's been a couple of years in the making to get to this point. You know, it's not just a case that we did it and it all happened in July. There's been a lot of negotiation and sort of challenges around this, and I've had internal challenges as well. You know, not everybody in the organisation was going, this is great, and because we've made it mandatory. It's a mandatory service. People don't have to use it, but it's a mandatory service, so they can choose not to engage. You know, we're not going digital by default. They can still phone us up, they can visit us, you know, but they've got to have the service to make it eligible for housing benefit. It's sort of that ties in with it, and that was, you know, we had some challenging debates around that as a service, as a senior leadership team. But I think the results that we're getting, the fact that there's been no extra cost on any resident through the negotiation that we've done, and the social value element that Alertical have put in has just made it an amazing success in the first 6 months, and hopefully something that we'll build on even further.
There's lots of nice comments saying it's a fantastic initiative, a great example of digitisation, brilliant use of tech to connect and engage with vulnerable residents. There's a question that came through that's sent directly, so I'm not going to go name names just in case they prefer to anonymise it, but have you any tenants who suffer from dementia, and how has that been impacted by the use of the service?
We do have residents that have got dementia. I think it depends upon the extent of their dementia diagnosis. You know, so, some residents in the early stages would be fine with this. Others, they may not cope with it. So, you know, as I said, they can choose not to engage in the service. They can choose not to accept a tablet. And, you know, for our more urgent messages, we might send that to a relative. We might, you know, for certain things, we've gone back to paper letters, you know, so we've not purely used this as the way, because we know we're still not getting to everybody. We're getting to 84% of residents at the moment. When the telecare system went down, you can send urgent messages to phone numbers as well, so that expands the reach to beyond the 84% to mid-90s, because they get a message on their mobile phone or their landline. So there's a way of doing it, but obviously that's not nice, pretty pictorial messages. That's for your more urgent elements. So whilst it is a mandatory service, people don't have to use it. I think that's the key to this. They can choose not to use it if they don't want. We just try and promote the benefits of using it.
Absolutely wonderful. I can see Louise just said she had to walk up 4 flights of stairs for next meeting, so she's having to bounce her phone, which is maybe the first time I've seen a message like that, which is horrendous, but kudos to you. There was a couple of things that had come through, again, around the data side. So with that connectivity side and the engagement you're receiving, how diverse has that data been with supporting neurodiversity or language barriers?
So at present, you can change the size of text and the sort of the color formation, but there are plans to move to have Google Translate built into the system, so that we can send the core messages out in the language choice of the resident. In fact, I think that residents can set up the system, or they will be able to set up the system to have the settings in their own language as a sort of core thing. Obviously, if we're sending PDF type photo messages, then we would need to look at either translating them or not, as the case may be. So we're not quite there with all of that as part of the future work, where I talked on that final slide about future EDI sort of ambitions and tailoring services. That's part of that plan. I think part of the plan is to have the device being able to read the messages to people as well that've got hearing impairments. So, you know, there's a lot of potential that we've got to come, still to come.
Thank you very much, Jim. A quick one from you before we kind of wrap up.
After Grenfell, I got in touch with James Butcher, and I suggested that very thing, that because of OK Each Day being such a great service, that perhaps it could work alongside the ReachTech tool, which enables English as a second language and could transform the language from the person speaking online. So if they rang up with an emergency, it would translate immediately to the advisor on the screen what the person was saying in English, and then translate back into another language. So I did suggest this to James and his team several times after the report came out from Grenfell, because I thought communication was a great difficulty as a result for Grenfell, and suggested he could do it through the emergency services and also add it as an adjunct to the OK each day. But unfortunately, I've not heard anything back from James, but I did pass it on to his teams. They told me they're passing the message on.
Yeah, certainly. So there's a list, I think, of about 12 or 14 enhancements to the service that Alertical sort of sent through to us to look at prioritising, and we've took that through our resident committee, and accessibility to messages, to information, whether that be hearing, language translations, etc., came out as the top priority for the staff and the residents alike. So
and I'll bring in Ben on that one, actually. Ben is with us from Alertical today to probably answer a couple of those questions as well. So Ben, over to you.
Thanks, Matt. And thank you, Richard, for a phenomenal presentation. I've not seen any of this before now, so I definitely owe you a lunch at some point, I'm sure. Just on the language point, so I've been with Alertical for about 10 years, so I can't really say that I'm new to the world of housing anymore, but I am a linguist by trade. So this particular feature I'm most excited about, albeit I can't speak all the languages that we'll be able to offer through the touchscreen. One of the developments that is coming, and it links to what you said, James, the messaging that individuals can choose in their own language. So, Richard and his team could send a message out in English. I, as a Spanish speaker, could choose to get that written message in Spanish. One of the things we're working on with AI and lots of other lovely things that I won't go into right now will convert that text into speech as well. So it's not going to work directly as an interpretation tool, because it'll probably do half of the United Nations out of business. But what it will do is that if you are sight impaired or have literacy issues or anything like that, you'll still be able to receive an audio message in the language that you've selected. And what we're working on is to try and limit the robot sounding text as well. So there's a whole host of more frequently spoken languages that will sound like real people. There's still a handful that just based on how many worldwide speakers there are of certain languages, it might still sound a little bit robotic, but it will still mean that even those, like I say, with sight impairment, will still be able to get audio messages as well.
Thank you, Ben. I know we're a few people having to leave. We've hit 12 o'clock, but a huge thank you to Richard for bringing the topic to the table, for Alertical for sponsoring this session, and for the roundtable in 24-25. But I think what's interesting, Richard, just from your side as last thoughts, really, I think the important thing for you has been that you've seen improved tenant engagement, you've seen improved tenant relations, and you're reaching people that you previously weren't. And I think that is probably testament to why you invested in it in the first place.
Absolutely, yeah. I mean, one of the my parting comment, I guess, will be one of the road shows that I think I was with Ben at. There was a lady in a wheelchair, electric wheelchair, with the sort of the headrest and everything, severely sort of disabled. And when we showed her what it could do, her words to me was, "This is going to open up my world." And I just thought, hey, we need to go back and see how she's got on with that, because it's just making a real difference to real people. And that, again, that's what we're all about. And as a housing association, as a housing charity, focusing on older people, we want to promote that across the nation. It's not just a secret for us in Hull. Hence why I had no problem coming on and sharing the first 6 months of our journey today.
No, thank you. I can see a few people. Yes, so slides and things will be on our YouTube channel. You'll be able to see all of the video back and obviously take it at your own speed. But for now, Richard, a huge thank you to you. Please do follow up with Richard, I, or Alertical with any questions. We're always happy to help. For now, massive thank you, and thank you for joining today, everyone who could be with us. Cheers again, and I'll see you next week.
Thank you. Bye.